Hello and welcome to, well, one of my first videos now, or at least first video that actually deals with stuff in a regulated way. Today we're talking about the three titans of Roblox's, what would you call it? British railway simulators. That's what I'll be saying. Well, Roblox's British railway simulators, the three titans. I think you've probably heard of all of them. Mind the Gap, Grand Continental Railways, and Stepford County Railways. It's just before the 1.4 update for Stepford County Railways when we're recording this, and well, let's just say, even before this update that could be coming anytime and probably have come by the time you're watching this, let's just say that update is going to be great, but Stepford County Railways is already probably, or should I say certainly, at the rate it's going, one of, if not the best railway simulator on Roblox, or at least it will be by next year. And why do I think this? It has a thing that Mind the Gap has: a lot of routes, a lot of routes, whilst they're still phasing out
Stepford Road
paper trains, which was a less, well, desirable feature of Mind the Gap, because paper trains do not look that nice. But next generation trains, they're being they're phasing out paper trains at a rate of knots, and what's coming in? Next generation trains. It's now possible to commute, which is a thing you can only really do in Stepford County Railways. I think we'll talk about that when we're talking about GCR later. But the routes, there's a lot of them, and they're good. And it feels real.
Stepford Road.
The UI is clean, and let's just say, if you want a game that feels real, you play this, because it has signallers and dispatchers in a way more than Grand Continental Railways does. You see, you have to go through a training thing on PC, and I think you have to be a staff member or something, I don't know, to do dispatching and signalling.
Stepford Central.
Now, of
Station is
course,
Rocket Parade.
as you'd probably see, they would need to do training, but
This train is now approaching Rocket Parade.
But if my announcements stop interrupting me, but unlike Grand Continental Railways, it is amazing with how they do it, because you have like giant offices where people go in to signal the sections. You have dispatchers at certain places which would actually need dispatchers, like Stepford East,
Stepford Central.
and well,
This train has 4 coaches.
let's just say it is just nice overall. And the map, right, some bits aren't that good. I mean, some bits just have really bland areas of just a lot of grass and some bushes.
Rocket Parade.
But the city areas are amazing, and the stations are detailed. Now, Grand Continental Railways. By far it has the best trains, but while Stepford County Railways just had an abundance of them, I mean not as much as Mind the Gap had, but we'll talk about that later. Whilst not having that many trains, these trains are by far the best made. I mean, the steam train doesn't look perfect, but it's a steam train. It's the only one of these games being reviewed with a steam train, and well, that just gives it a nice feel. But as I said when I was talking about Stepford County Railways, if this could be a little bit quieter and I didn't have to shout over it, well, with Stepford County Railways you could commute. This by far has better carriages, or rather used to have better carriages, but it's not that good overall. I mean, there are bland sections like this bit, with the only interesting thing being that it is literally the loudest thing in the world. But that's barely even interesting, and let's just say it could have been better the way they made the map. But back to the trains, and how I said Stepford County Railways a bit ago when I was talking about it, I said Stepford County Railways was good because you could actually commute properly, and you can't in this because unlike Stepford County Railways, where you have a specific route and boards, the announcement boards, to show that route, making it feel dynamic and like real life, and you can actually commute, it is harder with Grand Continental Railways. A reason for that is because the only way to know where that train is going is if the person is posting everywhere they're going in chat and doing the announcements. But quite a lot of people don't do that, and if they add something that can't use chat like the Xbox, then you don't know where their train's going, because all it says is this is a GCR mainline service, or this is a GCR charter service, and you don't know anything about what you're getting onto, which, well, could be improved upon. But oh no, now another long tunnel. Now we're going in this, it's going to be louder. Now I've got a shout and it gets like 10 times louder, and that's another thing. I wish the tunnels, they could take the reverberation off a bit so it sounded more like real life, but also, yeah, because there is a lot of reverberation in this, and you can't hear yourself think when you're driving through here, and it just gets annoying sometimes. You can probably hear it right now. It's the loudest thing in the video, but at least it only lasts a short time. Should it have the trains in Mind the Gap, especially the high speed ones. Now people might actually be able to hear me talk. Now we talk about stations. The stations are nice, but I find some just lacking. I mean, you've got, before the update adding Elis Tour, all you could do was the main circle, the lines going underground through the city, and that smaller circle that starts with the junction station that can't remember the name of. Now, most of the stations there were lacking, and well, they're on a lacking area generally. I mean, most of it was a few bushes maybe, and of course flat grass. But as you can see over there, it's also full of not the best physics. While SCR, it's impossible to crash. And mind the gap, which we're doing now, you can crash, and it's very easy to crash. I mean, none of them have the best physics engine, but I think SCR might have the best physics engine. But mind the gap, well, let's just say the trains are loud. The UI, in the bottom right, it looks clean. It looks clean, that does, but there isn't much to do with it, and especially the item slots with the items you can hold in your hand that you always have on Roblox. Those really shouldn't be appearing in a game about primarily driving trains. Another fault is paper trains. Now, alright, SCR had this, but they're phasing it out. Mind the Gap, meanwhile, is full of paper trains, and they aren't showing any signs of making a bunch of next gen ones, so we're left with these things. And originally, after quite a bit, Portal and Foundry are like, it's a finished project, we're not going to work on it anymore, even though there was literally nothing at Denthorpe apart from that bit of road area and the bit where you come in, which only started existing quite recently. But they've come back to it because there was a Roblox update, and that Roblox update made it very hard to drive trains. In fact, why am I saying very hard? I should be saying impossible. They fixed some and made it so it was possible to play the game. But really, it reminds me of old times in this game, except it's probably like the start of the game, not when I started playing it, even though there weren't that many trains then. There aren't many trains now. There's one train for each line, and the buses are intact, but the trains, there's one freight train, one express train, one commuter train, one subsurface, one regional, you get the idea, and that makes it, well, there's a lot less variety. And also, I'm just wondering what's going to happen to all the trains you get before that, and then they have to be took out and completely redone. Now, we're nearly at the end of the video, so I'm saying that in my ruling, it would probably be Stepford County Railways as best, because Grand Continental Railways doesn't have a point system, it doesn't have a real objective. It's only my opinion, you can forge your own opinions. I've just crashed now. That's the thing that it's very hard to do in SCR, and the video is about to end. TrainFan out.